to our Lent series, What Good News. This is week 4, where we're going to be looking at the 3 imperative responses which Jesus calls us to make to repent, believe and follow. This video is just going to act as a very brief introduction to those 3 themes, and then there's some questions as well as a kind of reflective activity which you can do in your life group. In John's Gospel, John tells us in chapter 20 that he wrote his Gospel so that we may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing in him we may have life in his name. We also have looked at, over the last few weeks, a foundational passage in Mark chapter 1 where Jesus preaches and says, repent and believe the good news. And then soon after, he calls his first disciples by saying, come, follow me. Repent, believe and follow. Jesus in the Gospel shows there is a clear difference between those who respond to him and those who don't, between those who truly hear and see and those who are blind and deaf to who God is, what he is and was doing through Jesus Christ. In the parable of the sower, Jesus speaks of the different conditions of our heart. They're represented by the different place, the different soils where the seed lands, the path, the rocky ground, the weeds, but also the good soil. We need to be good soil. We need to be people who have hearts that are ready to receive all that Jesus has to say, people who are ready to respond to the good news. And people do respond to good news. I guess this might be a bad example to make, but on Boxing Day, there are always those images, aren't there, of people running and even fighting in stores such as Harrods as they try and get hold of the best deals. Why? Because they've heard what they perceive to be good news, that there is a bargain on offer, and they respond trying to get that bargain. How much more then do we need to respond to the good news of Jesus? But how do we respond to Jesus? He calls us to repent, to turn from our old ways of living and to turn to him, to embrace his way, his kingdom, his lordship. He calls us to believe, to put our trust in who he is and what he does. And he calls us to follow him, to apprentice under him, to live out what he calls us to do while remembering that he is with us every step of the way. But this path, these responses are not easy. We may turn from our old ways and embrace the new life that Jesus offers, but like Lot's wife, we often turn back. We often look back. Lot's wife famously is rescued from Sodom. She turns away from her past life, but she can't help but look back, despite warnings not to. And as she looks back, she's turned to a pillar of salt. And just like her, we too often turn back, look back to our old ways, and we struggle with our human desires. We believe in Jesus, but we still put our trust in the things and the people that maintain the lifestyles that we desire that are apart from him. We believe in Jesus, but at times our lives struggle to reflect that belief. We want to follow Jesus, but we can be so easily distracted and we can follow the wrong things and the wrong path. But all is not lost, because although we may struggle, the good news is that Jesus is the Christ, the King of the kingdom, who came to die and rise again so that we may have life and life in all its fullness. He not only calls us to make a response to him, the good news is that he made these responses possible. And even when we sometimes fail and struggle, his death and resurrection means that there is always a way back to him, for he will never leave us or forsake us. What good news.